Welcome to the Creative Possibilities Podcast, a show for artists, dreamers, and individuals wanting to reconnect to their creativity. I am your host, Amber Price, and author of the Creative Possibilities book. And I'm inviting you to a space where creativity meets conversations about inspiration, hope, and rediscovering flow. Let's celebrate the creativity in all of us. Welcome, Jen, to the Creative Possibilities Podcast. I'm so happy to have you joining me today. Thank you so much for agreeing to participate and be on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is super fun. I'm really excited to connect with you.
So we are new to each other, and we just had a little bit of pre-conversation about what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to focus on embracing our inner goddesses. And, conversation may go in a couple of different directions, but I love that theme. And what you've told me so far and what I've learned about you is that we both are a part of a very special group called Radical Magic, which is creative entrepreneurs who are creating magic in this world, basically, and trying to get the creativity out there. And you're such a beautiful creative person. You're not only a creative person and an artist, as all of your art behind you portrays, but a shaman, a coach, a someone who knows about the design, human design, and also the you were just telling me about the gene keys. I'm learning today.
Absolutely. No worries.
So I want to just start by asking, tell me a little bit about your creative passions and tell me a little bit about you for our viewers, our listeners, etc.
It's funny. I say I'm an artist now, and every time I do, I'm like, really? Like, really? Is that how I am? Because I think words have baggage. So I work a lot with symbolism. And the word artist to me has baggage because I am not a fine artist. I am not in museums. That's not something that I even aspire to. A lot of my work has to do with self-exploration and is focused on sort of empowerment, self-expression, and really finding myself. I believe that a really beautiful conversation happens with yourself when you put your paintbrush or your pen or whatever it is to whatever material you're using. You meet your subconscious, and it opens up a whole bunch of things for you to learn about yourself. And I think that the most important thing we can do, particularly right now in this social environment, global environment, is to get more and more acquainted with ourselves and deeply wise about how we are walking around in this avatar so that we are responsible for our own behavior. We can be deeply grounded to earth and to our own values and move through the world from that place. I think it would cut down a whole lot of the reactivity. I always say we want to respond, not react. And I spent the first 50 years of my life in reactivity. So I know exactly what it feels like to, codependency, all the things where I felt responsible for other people's emotions and other people's reactions. And I was always tempering myself based on other people's reactions to me, which was earned action from my childhood. And it's so empowering to not have to live that way anymore.
That is absolutely, to not have to be in like fight or flight or reaction mode and actually feel more in control of your life and feel like you get to make the decisions, not necessarily have to be taking care of everyone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's actually funny to talk about that artistry for just a minute. My husband is so supportive of my art, and I always say, "Oh, but they're not finished." "Oh, but it's not finished yet. It's not finished yet." And I have a funny story that I'll tell you later when we reconnect with the card that I pulled for our session today. But I've begun finishing my art just within the past month, which is like, yay for me.
Yes. I too leave a lot of projects unfinished. I can totally resonate with that. And yeah, I like how you said at the beginning, you're like, you don't necessarily label yourself as an artist, but you learn about yourself through art. You are someone who is so grounded in just kind of discovering, it sounds like. You just are learning from the process of making art. And I'm a big fan of that, that it's not about things having to be finished, but it's about like learning along the way. And sometimes I leave things I don't know if you can relate this. I leave things unfinished because I learned the lesson. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah,
got it. I got
right.
the message. I learned that lesson. The painting isn't finished, but I really needed to just go through the motions and the process to do that.
Yes. And it's funny because I think, well, I know every one of us is an artist. We are the artists of our life, and we are painting it as we approach every day by the
Mhm.
decisions that we make and the stances that we take and the ways that we choose to spend our time and our energy, our precious energy. And years ago, I did a painting of a phoenix, and it was pretty close to my divorce, and I was nowhere near as healed then as I am now. And so I painted this thing,
Mhm.
and it was so bold, and I mean it was orange and yellow and red, like, oh my God, it was so unlike my typical style. And I put it away, and it sort of has been sitting against the wall for 3 years, 4 years maybe. And I just picked it up last week, and I was like, I think you need a facelift. And so I'm painting it again. And I think what's interesting about what most people think of when they think of an artist, they think of someone who sits down and paints a beautiful thing, and then it's done and it's ready and it goes on the wall and it's never touched again. And I want to offer that the frequency of approaching a canvas, if we want to talk quantum physics, right? If everything is energy and everything is frequency, the frequencies of our paintings never end. So I can say something is completed, but it's not done, right? And
Mhm.
a lot of my canvases are I forget the word that I always used. It just went straight out of my head, but they're
Okay.
canvases that on purpose I pick up all the time. And I'll like, there's an owl. Well, I'll turn it on its side and I'll make it be something else. And then a couple months
Mhm.
later, I'll turn it upside down again and I'll paint something else on it. They're living canvases that allow us to explore and process just for
Mhm.
the sake of exploring and processing. And I
Mhm.
don't think that the word artist expresses that.
Yeah, it's more. It's bigger. It
Mhm.
definitely is. Yeah, I think sometimes people put, and excuse me, I have a little frog in my throat. Ah, okay, a little singing here today. Uh, I think sometimes people journal and they feel like journaling is the only way to get to who they are or try to understand their own thoughts, their own life, their own mind, going to coaching, going to therapy, all those things. But sometimes it is just a practice with ourselves to just explore, whether it is through paint,
Mhm.
singing, clearing a frog. Um, there's so many different avenues to really tune into ourselves. It's pretty marvelous. And I love that. I love that we have that in common.
Me too. And I love that you just brought up journaling, because I think
Mhm.
when you journal and you write and you think things through, you're thinking. And I think the process of doing something creative, like painting or doing the lifelines process that I'm going to talk about later, it puts you in your body and it quiets the noise and allows that to kind of fade away. And the more you focus on what you're doing, you hear all your little gremlins or all your little voices in your body,
Mhm.
and your inner critic comes out loud and proud. And you get to actually have a conversation and engage with that part of you that is so critical. I mean, I always say to my kids, to my clients, like, be really careful what you say to yourself, because you're always listening. And then I
Yes.
pay attention to what I'm saying to myself in my head, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so brutal. I would never say things like I'm think about myself to any other person. And so I communicate and I have a little back and forth with that inner part of me when I'm at the canvas.
Love that. Let me ask you about the inner critic. A lot of times we just want to let it go. Like, I don't want to listen to it, da, 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 let all the stress, let all the criticism go. Do you think is it a process of letting go for you, or is it something else?
I actually think that the inner critic is parts of you that have been hurt and shoved away and are the parts that hold our biggest wounds. So our sadness, our fear, our hurt, our embarrassment, our shame. Oh my God, the shame. And I think that,
Heavy one.
yeah. And I think the time that we take to engage with those, first of all, it can be really scary. It can be really scary to turn towards any big emotion or an inner critic. Sometimes they can be one and the same. Um, but they don't last very long when you actually turn toward it and allow you to use your body as a filter. Our bodies are like a portal, right? So they are literally a portal so that we can feel these feelings and then release them and allow them with my spiritual structure. I can
Mhm.
release them to Pachamama, to Mother Earth. And in that relationship with her, she can continue to kind of keep drawing the things down from me, which has been a really beautiful part of my healing, is to know that I am not feeling this amount of shame all by myself. She's right there with me, and I can put her on like a cloak and I can disappear into a tree and I can do all these different things, which really help me synthesize those emotions. Um, and I also think they need to be heard. Like, what is it that you are trying to express to me? What do you need? And a lot of, for people with traumatic history, which, let's face it, every single one of us
Honest.
between 0 and 7 have a massive injury of some sort, emotional. We also have another traumatic event between 8 and 14. And these are they're structured into our lives at those times because it is our life process to unravel those and heal those and find ourselves being okay, even though these things happened. And I just think the process of allowing our bodies to be that filtration system, to be courageous enough to do that. And I don't consider myself a terribly courageous person, but that's where the goddesses come in. That's where I take on archetypal energies. And if I need to be a badass warrior, I take on Athena. If I need to get a lot of intuitive information that I want to see from above in the Karo Nation of Indians, and those are the ones with whom I am initiated, they would think of a condor as being the animal to go to because they can see itty bitty things on the ground, and birds are those that communicate with our higher power and our higher self. So there are all kinds of different animals and archetypes and goddesses and these different powers that we can take on. And I almost like envision myself putting on a cloak of whatever this power is that I need at that moment so that I can walk embodied in that energy if I think I don't have it completely all on my own. And it's fantastically powerful.
That sounds beautiful. I love it. So just going back to kind of what you originally said, you let your body, it's not about letting go, but you let your body feel the emotions, the shame, the big emotions, the fear, etc. And then you kind of give it to Pachamama or Mother Earth, and then you have it sounds like a intention to also within the earth and try to find those archetypes such as like goddesses, or try to find something that you want to embody,
Mhm.
almost, would you say, as a, not as a replacement, but as a like a transforming into something, transforming into kind of your higher possibility, or transforming into your inner goddess, transforming into Athena, like you said.
Yes. Yeah, I think by myself, I don't feel very powerful. With an archetypal energy that I've taken on to embody or what have you, it's not just me. I have whatever it is that I initially felt I lacked, I then feel that I have. And so it is like taking on an additional personality. a costume, if you will. I mean, we wear a whole lot of masks. I don't like the idea of masks, but a costume, a superhero cloak, for instance,
Mhm.
and I can plop that on and I just have additional um awareness that this is the energy that I have to pull in order to go there, to do this, to face that, whatever it may be.
Yeah, in the therapy that I do, sometimes we talk about resourcing to find sources of power, sources of peace, sources of groundedness or contentment. And it sounds like, you know, that's also a form of resourcing. Like you are tapping into powers that exist, peace that exists, or maybe badassery that exists, and you're utilizing that for yourself to move forward from the shame, to move forward from the fear.
Yes, and I
What's that?
what I said before about loneliness, if I understand that I can resource what I need from Mother Earth, from ideas from Pachamama, all of these things come from there and are provided for all of us through the universe. And there are so many stories and legends that are just like this, where someone needed a resource that they didn't have. And so they found it, they picked up whether it be the sword or the cloak or throw in any of the stories from our childhood. It's almost like our childhood was trying to teach us that we could do that, but because they were considered fairy tales or what have you, we denounced that as an accessible offering for us. And I think, I mean, it's just imagining. If I want to, if I'm here and I want to go there and I want to connect with that energy, what do I need to go from here to there? And then I find a resource through one of these archetypal energies to imagine myself powerful enough to be there. And then I'm there. Like, thank you. It's
Yeah,
magic.
yeah. And it takes a certain element of trust to do that too. It takes an element of trusting in ourselves and trusting in that the higher power of Mother Earth, the higher power of Pachamama, the higher power of sometimes just being able, like, for me, I always try to find evidence in my past of like, okay, I wanted something and I took these steps to get it. And I made it happen. Like I have lots of successes to think about, lots of failures, lots of oopses too, but I have lots of successes that I can draw upon. And so for you, is it trust? How would you say, is it trust in yourself? Is it trust in kind of the universal energy? What would you say?
I was just talking to someone about this and she's 20. And so she's sort of struggling with how she views her religious or spiritual beliefs and what are the differences between religiosity and spirituality. And
Mhm.
so it's interesting that you brought this up because it reminded me that um, I did not trust myself at all. I didn't trust the fact that I
Mhm.
understood people really well because I chose someone that was perfect for me to learn the lesson, but also caused me an extensive amount of damage while I was learning those lessons. So as I was stepping forth into my new life a few years ago, I didn't have a lot of trust in my people picker. I didn't have a lot of trust in my knowing in my gut that I knew how to follow the correct step. And I decided, I learned that I just had to trust my higher self and me and my guides and Pachamama or whomever I wanted to call in, my ancestors. I just had to make the next right step and then figuring out what resource I needed so that I could make that step. That's as far as I looked. I didn't look much farther than that. I didn't have to because to be on your illuminated path, you just need to make one more step. And
Mhm.
what I found before I was actually resourcing in this way regularly, I felt myself feeling pretty lonely and not having a lot of trust in myself. And then I made one step that was right. And I was like, wow, look at that. And then I did it a couple more times. And now it is the way I walk through life where I have these rituals and I have these practices and I have these awarenesses of what I look like and how I'm behaving when I know I'm not connected to all of those resources so that I can shift and get what I need in order to make the choices, take the step that I need to do. And all of it is based in creativity. It's all imagination and connecting to that. And I find that for me, it is much more effective for me to have a paintbrush in my hand, something where I'm trying to, if I want to work on something that scares me, for instance. I might
Mhm.
draw a sword, right? If I want to release something that attaches me to my past, I might use that sword to envision that I'm cutting the cords. I'm not painting a sword, so I put it up on the dining room wall. And I'm also not processing with my thoughts in a journal, because for me, processing in my thoughts keeps me in my head. It does not get me into my body. And this is my playground. I'm so excited to be in my head. Woohoo! There's so much exciting stuff going on up here. And I need to work daily to be embodied and be down in my body. It's the hardest place for me to be, and it's the most beautiful.
I am absolutely on that same page with you. Yes, I have recognized that the need to be out of all the thoughts and in my body, it serves me so much better. This can just be an endless loop, whereas this does feel like kind of an open source of discovery sometimes. So,
It's
um,
interesting. When you say the
yeah,
endless loop, I just want to say
yeah,
uh, I'm very good, almost Olympic level at perseverating thoughts, I would say.
on
So
a
I
big
get
level.
stuck in a thought loop. And for years, I did try to journal about it. And it just felt like every time I picked up my journal, it was heavy because it was filled with all these heavy, horrible, awful, disaster-baiting things that I was thinking about. And so instead, when I'm feeling like I need some support, I go to a canvas or a piece of paper or a Post-it note or the back of an envelope or whatever I can get my hands on, and I draw circles, because there's actually scientific evidence behind the shape of a circle, that it is calming. It helps in the Lifelines protocol that I have. There's some evidence. It's based on neurographica, which neurographica, they do studies, and it actually helps calm people's brains down. They have done studies where they've watched it happen in real time. And
Love it.
I'm fascinated by that. And so I use circles and squares and triangles and arrows and a few other basic symbols to so that we can put whatever is going on in here down and then change it on the piece of paper, so it's bringing it into reality.
It's active artistic transformation, it sounds like. And it's not trying to figure out the how and the what, but it's just exploring
Yeah.
through experiments. I love that. And the science of the brain is so powerful at, in a world that sometimes considers art fluff or creating fluff. It we need science to say like, hey, no, it's not.
No,
We can
it's not.
actually help our brains.
Mhm.
We can calm our nervous system. We can come back to our bodies through art. And I love that. You were telling me a little bit about your artwork behind you, the butterfly as well as the goddess. Were those like, do you start off with circles or marks underneath them and then build layers on top of them?
I do. So at the
Mhm.
risk of making anybody seasick with moving my paint, if you can see, all of my art has a lot of underlayer.
Mhm.
And I'm an art medicine practitioner. And so I use the layers of a painting to transmute and alchemize what I'm working on and working with. And so when I start something, I don't know what it's going to be. I just end up
Mhm.
making marks, putting colors down, and I always
Mhm.
have circles behind it. But if you look, you can see the heavy black lines.
Yeah.
You can see some writing at the top above the butterfly's head.
Mhm.
You see those lines behind the butterfly. Those are lifelines. And that's my version of what is neuro art, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and it's imbued with the energy of transmutation for what I was working on at the time. And so it's super powerful, almost like magic, the way it comes
Mhm.
off. And I sometimes use that intentionally along with Reiki and things. There's lots of different energies that I infuse in my paintings because I'm dealing with some fairly big themes. I'm transmuting themes like narcissistic abuse and codependency and alcoholic parents and so on and so forth. I mean, all of
Big.
us have a list of pretty significant issues that we might be needing to work through. And you know, I'm a very tricky person. If I go to a therapist, I am talking about my problems, which again
Yep.
is not being embodied and allowing myself to feel and process those feelings. And so this is a really powerful way for me to get embodied and to slow my brain down and to really get engaged and active and explore my thoughts in a way kind of like if you're looking at something that's kind of scary, if you turn and kind of look out of the periphery, you're still looking at it,
Mhm.
but it's not like you're staring the bear right in its eyes and you're asking it to attack you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's in a gradual approach to still get to the same place. Yeah, your awareness is there through your art, but it's not the literal analytic
Mm-hmm.
kind of process that sometimes therapy is. And yeah, sometimes when we try to solve our own problems
Mm-hmm.
by thinking our way out of them, yeah, sometimes we just go right back to the problem.
Well, and
So
that's not to say that I'm not in therapy. I am in therapy, you know, but that this
there's,
complements therapy because I'm only with my therapist for 1 hour a week. So
yeah.
what do I do the other how many hours of the week is that I'm, you know, I may be triggered. I
Mhm.
may learn something about myself. I believe that triggers are where our deepest work lay. And so it's not my husband's fault that he did something that triggers me. It's like, oh, thank you for that trigger because now I know where I have to do some work. Now I'm going to make a note for my therapist to talk about this in 5 days. That doesn't work for me. I would never
Right.
get through all the triggers if I worked like that. So this allows me to sort of address some of those things on my own. And so I can also
Mhm.
self-soothe and find a way to get back to my equilibrium, even
Yeah.
if things are crazy. So like I
Mhm.
said, you can do it on a Post-it note, you can do it on a huge journal, you can do it on a big canvas. If you only
Mhm.
have 5 minutes, you can do this on a Post-it note and just scribble it out and then you're done, you know, and it's there you are in your body.
Download. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It is our way of kind of discovering just even that micro 5 minutes, 5 or 20 minutes of just kind of letting things out in a unique, creative way, thinking out of our head, out of the box, and putting it onto paper in new ways. I love that. So you are such a beautiful human. It sounds like you transform so much through just the archetypes, the metaphors, the symbolism, your art process. Um, and I know our theme originally was embracing our inner goddess. So I am going to ask you specifically about that goddess picture in the background. Was there something in particular that you were, yeah, or
This
whichever
is
goddess? You might
this
have
is me.
multiple.
I do actually. This is me. Oh, she needs to come down because she's not finished. But um, but this is me, and I was doing this art to explore
Mhm.
how I can actually challenge that inner critic and find some beauty in myself and
Mhm.
start to repair some of the experiences that I've had that have challenged that. And so it was really an amazingly challenging experience to draw a face. No faces,
Yes.
even ours, are not symmetrical, but of course, that's what you
Mhm.
want to put on the page. You want them to be exactly the
Yes.
same. I find working at the canvas to be an amazing opportunity to uh, talk to find out about all of the expectations you have about yourself. And expectations are just a killer. They just are,
Yeah.
they ruin the joy of any experience. But I actually am writing a goddess program, which is a 10 series
Mm.
art medicine protocol for putting on different archetypes and exploring goddesses and goddess energy and seeing what resonates and what we maybe need from them.
Love it.
And I'm
Mhm.
hoping to, my plan, I'm going to say it out to the universe, is
Yes.
to start a 501(c)(3, and I'm trying to figure out how to get this goddess box in the domestic violence shelters around the country. with the help of corporate donations, hopefully. But it's
Yes.
interesting because I pulled for us the card Green Tara.
I don't know.
Green Tara, she is, there's multiple layers that go to her. So there's white Tara, there's red Tara, there's yellow Tara. And I explored all of those Taras to come up to Green Tara. And this was the introduction to my artistic expression. So here is my Green Tara.
Beautiful. For
So
you,
I
tell
think it's
me what it represents to you. What is she a symbol of?
um for me, there's a one of the layers is studying the accessibility of anger for women, because it is not an emotion that many women feel or express. We all feel it, we don't express it. And for me, when I get really angry, I just instantly go to crying. Which I've always thought, like, why am I doing that? Like, this person actually wronged me. I have the right to be angry, and instead I'm hurt. And yes, I do believe that anger is a deflector and like the emotion before being hurt. But there are some times that having some anger so that you can hold a boundary and defend yourself is
Mhm.
so important. And so there's a layer under here that is like bright red, kind of like my phoenix, actually bright red. And it was angry, and the lines were all crazy, and there's lightning bolts underneath there, and really sharp edges as a juxtaposition to the circle, right? And it was
Mm.
such an exploration. It was super powerful. And then I put it away and hid it because I do, because it wasn't finished. And I now have it here as a reminder. And her face is blurred out. You probably couldn't see from that far away, but like I erased her mouth at one point. At one point, I just took like a totally different color, purple, I think it was, and I just colored across her eyes, nose, and mouth in purple and over the green, which was like, that's not easy to cover. What are you doing? But it was just an expression of my rage. And I realized that, look at that. I'm getting angry at her face, but I'm expressing my anger on the canvas. That's okay. This is not supposed to go in my dining room. So
Yeah.
I mean, I really like her actually. I might move her into my closet, for instance, or into my bathroom, somewhere where she can remind me on a daily basis of my power, that I am allowed to stand it. Each one
Mm.
of us has that sovereign power. We
Absolutely.
each deserve love and respect, and to being treated with humane respect. And I did not experience that for a while.
Mhm.
And so it's a great reminder for me for that too.
Yeah. So your art, it sounds like, reconnects you to really helpful protector parts, or really helpful parts of us that may have been suppressed or hidden by those life experiences of living with a narcissist, having alcoholic parents. I understand about all. I
Yeah.
understand. And it's, yeah, those life experiences really make us like quiet the anger or suppress our anger quite a bit. So I love that that particular painting for you is about like, let's get it out. Let's
Yes.
celebrate that part of me that can put boundaries up, that can be angry.
And get in touch with that person, because it
Yeah.
occurs to me as we're talking about this that after, years of therapy, um I had talked about being angry. I had talked about the emotion of anger. I had thought about times that I was angry, but it never
Mhm.
occurred to me that I actually had not felt anger, and that I would never allow myself to sit in anger. I would instantly drop into sadness. And it was through this painting where I actually was able to explore that in a different way, an entirely different way, which was ultimately the lesson that I needed to learn. Like, I finally got it. I can hear something, read something, talk about something for hours. It doesn't mean I'm going to actually get it into my body where it's something that I can feel, know,
Mhm.
understand, and express ultimately.
Yeah, until then, it's just a concept and it's kind of this, yeah, disembodied part
Mhm.
of us, I almost. So, so you were just talking about embodying anger and feeling it in your body. And I really as a therapist, I've recognized that I've spent a lot of years in my head talking to other people who are in their head. And I'm really loving lately, like more somatic practices. And I myself am a dancer as well as an artist. And I I just, it's like I knew that dance helps me get through emotions. Like I don't just dance, just how people tell me. I like express through dance. And um, it's such a beautiful thing to actually feel it in your whole body, to feel the rage or to feel the emotions and have it be okay. And I wish that was kind of normal for everyone to not necessarily attack and react to the world around, but just express in a way that is helping us discover our own selves and our own powers that we have inside of us, whether they be goddess powers, whether they be powers to protect our hearts. Yeah, I love this topic so much. I could talk a long time about this topic.
Me too. Um, and I think I spent most of my life in my head, like disengaged, disembodied. It's just disassociated, where um, I only allowed information to come in through my mind because then I could chew it up and try to get it broken down into pieces that were safe enough for me to then act on, if you will. Um, and I'm so sad for my younger self that that's the way I went through so many years. And so it's like, I, if I'm not paying attention, or if I haven't performed a ritual, or if I haven't taken the dogs for a walk, I start my day and I'm instantly like, whoop, like I'm listening to the news, I'm having my coffee, I'm doing all these things instead of like trying to get myself grounded into my body in order to start
Mhm.
my day. As a yoga teacher, one of the hardest and most awful, one of the most awful and difficult times of my life, I was going through my yoga training, which was like, thank you, universe, for that timing, because I had to be embodied through the yoga training. And so I would go home and have to deal with the repercussions of this transition. And um, it was beautiful and hard, and I could never have done it the way I did it if I had not been forced to be doing like 9 hours of yoga every day for weeks and weeks. But it was so meaningful because I think so many of us are disassociated and we react from our heads and we're not responding from our bodies. So, our guts know our most important brain to guide us through our lives is in our gut. It's not in our head. And to access that information and that wisdom, we have to be embodied. We can't access it from up here. So I'm so grateful for the transmutation of my life, and I can live it from this place.
And not only, it sounds like it's connected you through your yoga teacher training, it connected you to your body again, connected you to kind of your source of power, your source of kind of the gut, the body, the muscles, everything. But it sounds like, did that also lead, like the yoga teacher training also lead into more art too and more creativity in your life, you feel like?
I do. I
Yeah.
definitely do. And it was curious because I started my teaching training through a program called Breathe for Change, which its mission is to get a yoga and meditation certified teacher in every school in the country. And
Awesome.
the principal at the time said, yes, take this class, blah, blah, blah. So I took it over the summer. And the next year I showed up and the principal was gone. And there was a new principal who
Oh,
decided that yoga had some baggage attached to it that would offend some of our student body. So I was not able to do any of the training and use it in the classroom, which is terribly sad that something like getting into your body would be criminalized like that, if you will. But it was so helpful for me. And it's something that actually informs many of my rituals. It informs my meditations. It informs the voice in my head that's like, you didn't do your yoga today. You didn't do your thing today. Oh, I know. And I recognize and admit flat out loud that I am living and practicing this too. So I
yeah.
don't do yoga every day. And yes, I should. And is it hard to
I
quiet?
don't do yoga every day either. Yes.
I mean, even a 10-minute practice just to get attached, to get into my body in the morning would be so much better than the ritual that I do have, which is running to the coffee pot. It's my favorite time of day. Um, but I do think that there is a challenge to getting quiet. So much of us talk about anxiety. Our children, our adolescents, we have an anxiety epidemic in our teens. And getting your mind quiet is challenging and hard and can be really scary. Um,
Oh, yes.
and so if yoga for an hour at the yoga studio is not an option, do 10 minutes in your living room. If yoga totally turns you off, grab a couple of crayons and draw on a piece of computer paper. If that's too much, go buy yourself a coloring book and draw with pens on something that somebody else has already created. Like, there is just the quiet time, just
Mhm.
the time to allow this beautiful brain of yours to wander and to be witness and observe where it goes. Witnessing, that word has baggage for me. That baggage has like a judgment. Oh, are you witnessing? I'm witnessing you. So I tend to use the word observer more often, because if you just observe where your mind goes, you'll learn so much about what is causing sort of that thrumming vibration in your chest, or what is worrying you to make you not be able to sleep. I'm working on being a better sleeper. So
The observer, and yes, part of the mindfulness, the observation, the movement, and just quieting it. So many people are scared of quietness, and they're just because it makes them face sometimes the fears and the thoughts. But yeah, it can be simple. I like how you said that. It doesn't have to be a certain thing. It can be whatever's accessible, whatever makes you feel good in your body at that moment in time, whatever you have time for, which is a lot of people, 5 to 10 minutes. Like that's what they have, maybe more, but yeah, just finding those practices to get back to. For me, it is something different all the time too. I don't have the same thing that I go back to. I need lots of tricks in my bag, basically, to get
yeah.
into my body and into my creative flow as well. So I
Well, and I think
100%
that
agree.
resistance to all of these practices that we've talked about today,
Mhm.
resistance can come up in, oh, I have a phone call. Oh, my dog needs the walk. Oh, I've lost time. I just ate up all my time to do that. I guess I won't do that
Yeah.
today. Resistance comes up in so many forms that having a whole bunch of tools in your toolbox, so you can, almost like an oracle deck, you could just pull out a deck that gives you a 5-minute exercise. And if you don't have 5 minutes and you only have one, then take the 1 minute, but like hold yourself accountable to doing the one thing.
Mhm. It's a practice. It's not perfection. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Well, I so appreciate your time today, and I just want to ask if other people want to find you, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that? What's the best way?
The best way is on Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, it's Life Shine Design. And if they're interested in that drawing practice that I talked about, it's Life Shine Design. And there's a Soul Circles group under Life Shine Design. And I welcome you to go in there. In fact, I'm doing a live later today, and I'm there. I enjoy it. Instagram is also a place, and Substack is where I write a monthly forecast for the energies coming up, a weekly forecast, which kind of is the catch-all for all of this. And then I post de vez en cuando, once in a while. I'm actually going to post tomorrow about the new moon. So
Mm,
here we go.
I love it. I love how grounded in the earth you are and grounded in the practices that feed and nourish you, that feed and nourish your creativity. And it seems like such a supportive circle, or such a supportive environment that you've created for other people too. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and put all your links below in the description. And I just want to thank you again for having a conversation with me and spending time. Thank you, Jen.
Thank
It's
you
been
so much.
lovely.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.